Shit, did I hit the wrong button? Fuck. Am I live? Did it go live? All right, well, I've started off in the first 30 seconds saying the naughty words. So we'll see how long I last. No, I sat down and I hit the wrong button and I went live. Okay. I was going to wait another little bit, but it is what it is. Today, today on this Friday after the Friday the 13th day, um, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm sure you guys have heard of creepy pastas. There's like a bazillion of them. Well, let me introduce you to something new. It is called the SCP Foundation. Secure, Contain, Protect the world from really fucked up shit. And it's like creepypastas, except, well, it is and it isn't. Creepypastas are stories that people tell. These are like supposedly scientific logs of anomalous objects, people, and places that they've found, both here on Earth and out in space. And they're called the Secure, Contain, and Protect Foundation. Wait, let me pop their link into the chat so everybody look. There's like a bazillion of them too. Wait, there's one, two, three, four. There's nine series of SCPs, and the first three are the best three. So that's what we're going to go through today. Um, and let me tell you, some of this shit's really creepy. You think the creepy pastas are creepy? Say that three times fast. Um, but yeah, this SCP stuff, it's like a step beyond, not above or below, just beyond. Because there's weird shit. There's this one SCP called the Infinite Staircase Down, and that's all it does is it goes down and down and down and down and down and down forever. But when you walk down a flight of steps and turn to go down the next flight, there's a face on the wall at the bottom of the steps that's like looking at you all weird. When you start to descend the steps, you get halfway down, the face disappears, and you're like, what the fuck? So you keep going down, and boom, there it is again on the next flight at the end of the next flight of stairs on the wall. So some of this shit's really creepy. And the staircase, they haven't found the bottom. There is no bottom to this staircase, I guess. But there's their website. Please check them out. Like I said, the first three series are the best. 1, 2, and 3. And then 4 and 5. And then there's good ones scattered here and there. They try to clean it up and not make it as fucked up. Oh, hey, Lisa. Lisa. Pop up if you want to. Nerd. Sorry. It's Friday. I ain't got shit to do. I'm just going to fuck around and tell some creepy stories. I'll see if I can get away with that and not get a strike and quit tempting the fucking bear playing music and shit all the time. So I figured I'd try something different. We're creeping up on Halloween, or Halloween's creeping up on us, depending on how you look at it. But yeah. Oh, Lisa, I got all my shit done yesterday. So it's going to be smooth sailing till Monday, and then we'll see what happens Monday. Maybe not smooth sailing, depending on the weather, but we'll see how that goes too. So, but yeah, I talked to Mom this morning. She called me. She said she's feeling good. I told her not to fucking overdo her shit like she did yesterday, and she says, "Yes, no, I'm not going to." I said, "One step at a time. That's the way you take it. You feeling better? You doing better? You getting rested? One step at a time." Yeah, because I know how she is. She gets some energy, and she feels like getting up and doing everything all at once. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I can't stop her. I can't tell her no, you can't do that. I'm not gonna fucking do that. If she feels like she can do it, do it. And then, yeah, you know. But she was having coffee with a friend, and she decided to call and check on me, make sure I was feeling better, which I am. Thank fucking Christ. Jeez. No, I felt bad all last week. From fucking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, felt like shit. Today I'm feeling good. Yeah, they get that itch to fucking do shit. I'm like, look, take a minute. Don't try to do everything all at once. That's how shit messes up. But anyway, um, yeah, I figured I'd broadcast some creepy stories today. No, there's no gore. Well, there's gore, but it's gonna be like somebody talking about it. It's not gonna be like showing anything because I'm not getting another strike. Look, if I can get away with playing songs in the background, like, you know, lyrics and shit, I should be able to. Hey, look, it's promoting their website. It's like a creepypasta website, but it's like a scientific investigation of like things that are ghosts or alien tech or just you name it. There's a story about it in there. I fucking guarantee it. But I'll give it another few minutes just in case to let all the bots go away. Well, I mean, I'm kind of like that too, Lisa. If I'm going to do laundry, I'm going to do all the fucking laundry all at once. And then, yeah, I'll start at like 11 o'clock at night and keep going till about 7 o'clock in the morning because that's when power rates drop here. So, yeah. Or if I decide to fucking clean up the yard, I go clean up the yard. You know, I'll take all day fucking cleaning up the yard. Come back in, chug a beer or whatever, and then go back there and finish what I was doing. There's still more shit out there I need to clean up though. But that's because, I have peach trees and apple trees and fucking nightmare on elm trees. No, they're oak trees. They're not elm. Civil Wolf, how are you? Um, I know you don't like scary movies, Lisa, but specifically, what kind of scary movie do you not like? I'm sorry you're not feeling good, Civil War, but I'm doing better today than I was yesterday. So, Lady Gemini. Nerds. What do you mean you don't like supernatural? You don't like ghost stories? I mean, I get slasher flicks. That's just chopping people up. Yeah, I mean that's like House of a Thousand Corpses and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. No, I mean they're fun. They're fun to watch, but I mean they're not really like horror movies. It's like, oh, let's see some people get body parts chopped off. Yeah, that's not. But supernatural, like ghosts and aliens and shit like that. Well, I mean, if you can't handle horror, then fair enough. I get it. Some people can't. I think you would like The Crow, though, Lisa, because it's hard to classify that. I mean, I guess you'd call it horror, gothic horror. Okay, you've seen The Crow. Okay, the first one with Brandon Lee. That's what we're talking about, not the shitty next one that they've tried to remake all that shit with and fucked it all up. Who was that guy? He was Pennywise the Clown in It, and they cast him to play the Crow. Really? Okay. And yeah, it just like shit the bed. Yeah, yeah. The Brandon Lee Crow. That was fucking sad. What happened to him? It really was. It's like his dad died on set, but he had a brain aneurysm or something like that. That is the best I've been able to pin it down. And Brandon Lee got shot by an improperly cleaned blank gun. Something was in the barrel and the blank shot it into his chest. Apparently, according to the stories that have consistency, and then they thought he was acting so well that it took them a minute to get over there and say, hey, no, this dude's really fucking bleeding out and get him to the hospital. So, fucking weird. Life is weird, right? Okay, look, I said I was going to do this. We're creeping up on noon. Um, it's 11:59 and 48 seconds. Yeah, it was a Skarsgård. There was a Skarsgård in Thor too, or in the Avengers. He was that professor guy that mentored Natalie Portman's character. He was that's his dad or his uncle or something like that. Yeah, he's a Skarsgård too. They're from the Norwegia. I mean, I could look it up, but I have like 1,000 tabs open about. Well, it's going to be like they're going to talk about the SCPs, but I don't want to play the video because one more strike and I'm out. So I don't know. I mean, they took these stories from the Foundation website, the SCP Foundation website, and made videos about them, but I don't know how copyrighted they are. So as long as I don't play the video, just the audio, everything should be good. And we'll go through one or two of them. And if y'all are into it, we'll keep going. And if you're not, hell, I'll go find stupid people getting arrested for being drunk. And we'll watch that for a while. How about that? But we'll start with this and see where it goes. All right, have I blabbered my fucking mouth enough already? No, let me give it a little bit more. Let me give it a little bit, couple more minutes. Give it 350. 350. Oh, and the thing about the SCP uh, entries are that some of them are really, really, really funny. They're really, really, really. I'm gonna try to start out with one of those. I haven't listened to this one yet, specifically, but the title of it is called "Hyper Religious Cats." No, no, no. You'll get it. And some of these stories are really, 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 really terrifying because it's like end of the fucking universe shit. Yeah. So, but we'll start with the funny one. I hope. It's called Hyper Religious Cats. Am I there yet?
And the SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-4516. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. All entrances to SCP-4516 have been shielded with thaumaturgic warding. Personnel are to maintain these wards indefinitely. Under no circumstances are personnel to enter SCP-4516 unless the majority of the L5 Council are in agreement. All objects and entities extracted from SCP-4516 are to be kept in containment indefinitely. Research of Class II anomalous objects or lower is permitted with the written permission of the Site Director. Anomalous objects above Class II require written permission from the Regional Director. Non-sapient biological entities are to be sterilized and maintained until their death, after which the body is to be incinerated after study. Sapients are to be naturalized in terrestrial law and relocated to various anomalous enclaves should they have no criminal record, are not infected with a contagious illness, and are not connected to Sorxus nations monetarily, militarily, or religiously. Description: SCP-4516 is a series of 4 gateways to an unknown location believed to be somewhere within the Milky Way galaxy. These gateways are located in Iraq, SCP-4516-1, North Korea, SCP-4516-2, the Bahamas, SCP-4516-3, and the United Kingdom, SCP-4516-4. Upon entering an instance of SCP-4516, the individual will experience symptoms typical of long-distance gateway travel, including nausea, dizziness, ringing in the ears, bleeding from the gums, etc. The exit point is always the same regardless of instance entered. This appears to be a large forest filled with trees of an unknown species. Travel through the gateway from the other side takes the individual to the original gateway from which they entered. Native entities are sent to a random destination unless they are in physical contact with one another. The exit point has been designated SCP-4516-A. SCP-4516-B is the interior of a Dyson sphere, indicated by the binary stars in the middle of the sky and the curved nature of the world, allowing one to view the perceived top of the sphere from the bottom. A gravitational anomaly pervades the entire structure, making objects behave as they would on Earth, negating the centrifugal forces. It is estimated that the Dyson sphere has a roughly 16 light-minute, 287,800,000 kilometer diameter. The atmospheric composition of SCP-4516-A is similar to Earth, albeit with slightly higher levels of neon and lower levels of argon than baseline. It should also be noted that SCP-4516-A is anomalously stable, showing no signs of orbital decay or seasons related to an area's distance from the Sun. SCP-4516-B possesses a noticeably elevated thaumaturgical inclination than Earth, making spells and naturally occurring anomalous abilities much stronger in SCP-4516-B than on baseline Earth. The reverse is also true, as organisms and spells native to SCP-4516-B have less thaumaturgical prowess on Earth than they do in SCP-4516-B. SCP-4516-B possesses an extremely extensive and varied biosphere, with an estimated 1.3 times 10 to the power of 16 indigenous species, although the accuracy of this estimate is presently uncertain. An estimated 87% of all species display some sort of thaumaturgical ability, ranging from teleportation to chronological displacement. The remaining 13% of life forms that do not display thaumaturgical abilities are highly specialized life forms that are limited to specific environments, typically the deep ocean or highly isolated islands. To date, the architects of SCP-4516-B are unknown. Numerous sapient species and a handful of deities have been discovered, although it is believed that these naturally evolved on SCP-4516-B and not the builders of the structure. Discover.
Okay, what do you think? Yeah, it was an odd place to come in, Orange. I mean, this is the SCP Foundation files. They're like creepypastas, but they're more scientific, like analysis of the weird shit and what you could do and what can be done to fucking contain them. SCP, secure, contain, and protect. And there's some shit they can't fucking secure, contain, and protect. They can just monitor. See what the hell, what might go wrong. Yeah. It's like creepypasta, but yeah, in the scientific format. All right, who all got bored and left yet? Everybody? Nobody? There's another Skarsgård that's an actor, Lisa. I can't think of his name right now, but like I said, I have like fucking 20 tabs open. If I open any more, everything's going to crash. So, yeah. I'll get back to you on that later. But, enjoy, don't enjoy. Someone else's problem. No, it is SCP, secure, contain, and protect the Earth from all kinds of fucked up shit. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Someone else's problem. Yeah. I got to go back and reread those books. I really did. I really enjoyed the first and second. There's that. But okay. Okay. Fair enough. Hey, look, we'll play a little bit more and keep going here and see what happens.
SCP-4516 was discovered after a group of large humanoid mammalian beings appeared spontaneously in the Bahamas on November 30th, 1945. These entities measured 7 meters in height, with green dark skin, a single eye, and were armed with crossbows and swords. These entities were intercepted by the Global Occult Coalition and destroyed before the Foundation was aware of the incident. The event was classified as an anomalous incident until an identical event occurred on July 9, 1948, in North Korea. Foundation assets were alerted in time and containment is established with a single Foundation fatality. Upon interrogation, SCP-4516-B was discovered, in addition to SCP-4516-1, 3, and 4, based on Foundation records of similar incidents. The entities, collectively classified as SCP-4516-1, were each individually interrogated and revealed to be colonists from Torak, a city-state within SCP-4516, and were attempting to escape persecution for their religious beliefs. Contact with the entity's government was established and exploration of SCP-4516 began. The humanoids were naturalized in terrestrial law and relocated to various anomalous enclaves, including 3 Portlands. The species numbers in the 60,000s according to the 2017 census. Incident 4516-1. After years of negotiation with the Commonwealth of Torak, The state was overtaken by the nearby nation of Forathia due to a combination of border disputes, religious disagreements, and catalyzed by an assassination attempt on the Torakian queen's favorite concubine. The nation of Forathia was much more hostile towards the Foundation than the original Torakian government. This is best shown through the infiltration of the Foundation by a Forathian agent whom is responsible for a containment breach on Site-16, resulting in the death of 892 Foundation personnel and 36 civilians. Following this, the Foundation was temporarily cut off from SCP-4516-1, isolating personnel on the interior from Earth. After 3 months of no contact, the gateways were reopened. Foundation assets previously trapped within SCP-4516-1 had apparently worked with Forathian rebels and overthrown their rule, re-establishing the nation of Torak. The nation of Forathia was destroyed in the conflict. Personnel involved were given the Foundation Gold Star for valor. Exploration of SCP-4516-1 continues. Incident 4516-2. Through exploration of SCP-4516-B, a city-state under the name of Minotarius is encountered. Measuring 18 kilometers wide, Minotarius is inhabited by a species of cat-like quadrupeds measuring 2 meters at the shoulder. This species is telekinetic and are able to use a very limited form of thaumaturgy. Upon contact, the inhabitants of the city-state had an abrupt socio-religious shift. Foundation personnel apparently resembled the inhabitants' version of angels, and thus believed the Foundation to be holy beings. This quickly degraded, however, once the inhabitants realized that Foundation personnel have red blood, when their angels bleed purple when injured. This led to a brief civil war before a massive assault against Foundation forces, the inhabitants believing them to be demons and wishing the apocalypse upon them. 65% of personnel did not survive. The remaining 35% were forced to retreat into Torak. A siege ensued, which negatively affected the relationship between the Foundation and Torak. Incident 4516-3. Torak, after 19 months of siege, is finally overrun after a tunnel constructed by the Mentarians opens up near the center of the city-state. A mass slaughter ensues, resulting in nearly 100% casualties among Foundation and Torakian forces. The gateway is sealed immediately. To date, there has been 17 incursions from the other side of SCP-4516, each of which has been successfully repelled. Incident 4516-4. After 3 years of inactivity from the exit point, a Foundation strike force was authorized to enter in order to assert the current situation in SCP-4516-B. It was quickly ascertained that the forest previously surrounding the exit point had been converted into a new nation called the Mamorthian Empire. This nation is very technologically, socially, and thaumaturgically advanced. The conflict between the Mentarians and Torakians was determined, according to historical records, to have spilled out into the surrounding area and civilizations, enveloping the entire region into a brutal series of wars and unstable alliances, along with religious, species, and ethnic purges. This culminated in a single war between 3 different alliances: the Gornok Union, the Sorxus, and Morinian Confederacy. The Gornok Union was a collection of highly authoritarian, theocratic states. The Sorxus was a collection of very secular and collectivist nations, and the Morinian Confederacy was an ideologically diverse group of nations which would be too weak to otherwise defend themselves. Rapidly advancing technology and thaumaturgy, which was aided by technology and other materials left behind by Foundation personnel in the years prior, ultimately allowed a joint Gornok and Morinian force to destroy the Sorxus alliance. This, however, has led to a military standoff between theocratic states and the increasingly libertarian Morinian states, with terrorist attacks perpetrated by Sorxus-backed groups against Morinian nations becoming increasingly common, as is immigration from these nations.
Goddamn hippies.
This concludes today's lecture. Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are, and you are all dismissed. Goodbye.
Goddamn hippies. Okay, how was that? Was that pretty good? Shall we move on to the next one? Hang on. No, look. I ain't gonna do the world ending shit. Okay. We'll save that for a minute later. Oh. That's world ending. Huh. Okay, we'll do this one. We'll do this one. Everybody still there? You keep me hanging on. Present. Where's it at? Look, I just fucking had. No, there we go. Derp. Okay. Boom. Hey, look, there's nothing to see here. Move along. Move along. How about that? Yeah, I could, but I ain't fucking with it right now. So, let me. Where the fuck am I at? I have too many fucking. No, not that one. Not that one. That one. There we go. Oh, here we go. Here we go. One more. Hey, look. At least one more.
Note, file under review. This document has been flagged for possible methodological issues. Please be aware that the following information is subject to change and may contain inaccuracies.
Item number SCP-5031. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-5031 is to be contained in an airtight iron cell in Biosite 59. The structure must be inspected for imperfections on a bi-weekly basis. No other interaction necessary. Description: SCP-5031 is a non-sapient quasi-humanoid creature of unknown origin. When directly observed, SCP-5031 will temporarily cease to exist until the viewer stops observing the space that SCP-5031 formerly occupied. Traces of its existence, for example scratch marks or blood trails, continue to exist when SCP-5031 does not. Video and photography devices do not capture SCP-5031's appearance. However, observing SCP-5031's shadow does not cause cessation of existence, allowing certain physiological traits to be inferred from its silhouette. Abnormally small head with no discernible neck. Elbows branch into 3 sets of lower arms each. Elongated torso approximately 1.9 meters in length, presumably for extra digestive capacity. Pelvis terminates in a crescent-shaped protrusion of osseous tissue with a blade-like lower edge. Levitates above the ground at a fixed height of 0.5 meters. While SCP-5031 has no nutritional needs, it will nevertheless hunt and consume any human or animal it encounters by using its pendulous lower body to down targets. SCP-5031 does not sleep and is incapable of expression or verbal communication. Addendum: as of 14/02/2018, Senior Researcher Stanley Huxtable is now acting in the role of HCL Supervisor for SCP-5031. The following is a selection of relevant correspondences from Senior Researcher Huxtable to Site Director Yusuf Mustofi elucidating research progress. 14/02/2018. Initial impressions. I have no idea who wrote this, but there's a lot I'd like to say to them. I'm not a fan of abandoning a living creature inside a metal box for 10 years, no matter how pragmatic it may be. It's difficult to fathom that such things were considered the norm a decade ago. Have you ever heard something scream from behind 10 inches of iron for hours on end? When I do my redraft, remind me to add anomalous resistance to hoarseness somewhere in the description. Could you work your magic and get the boys to retrofit the containment cube with an aperture and security vestibule? I'd like to run some tests that require exposing SCP-5031 to certain stimuli. 08/03/2018. Round 1 tests. Sound. Summary. Forward. Installed speakers in the containment vestibule and played various albums of natural ambience and popular music. SCP-5031's propensity for screaming worked as a convenient way to measure its stress levels. 100% would be considered its typical screaming. Volume and duration, over 48 hours, and 0% would be no screaming at all.
I couldn't fucking know.
Selection, morning
If it
forest
screams all the
ambience,
time? No.
stress level, 43%. Seaside paradise ambience, 48%. Deep grotto ambience, 62%. The best of Mozart, 13%. The best of Enya, 18%. The best of Ben Folds, 6%. The best of Jethro Tull, 59%. The best of Kiss, 23%. Afterward. Efficacy of music for stress reduction gradually decreases over time. I've assembled a playlist of SCP-5031's favorite music to play on shuffle in its enclosure in perpetuity. Stress levels consistently remain in the 15 to 25% range. Baseline adjusted accordingly. 22/03/2018. Round 2 tests. Play. Summary. Test. Threw softball into enclosure. Result. SCP-5031 sliced the ball in two. Test. Tossed basketball into enclosure. Result. SCP-5031 sliced the ball open. Test. Rolled bowling ball into enclosure. Result. SCP-5031 scratched a couple of grooves into the ball, then rolled the ball around the enclosure with the blunt end of its tail for 20 minutes. Stress levels remained less than 60% after play. Test. Rolled another bowling ball into the enclosure. Result. SCP-5031 used the blunt end of its tail to hit the balls together for a while. Stress levels remained less than 40% after play. Test. Bowling ball chipped and would no longer roll properly. Unplanned. Result. Stress levels increased to around 115%. Test. Replacement bowling ball provided. Result. Stress levels fell back to around 40%. Test. Tossed basketball into enclosure. Result. SCP-5031 picked up and played with the ball. Stress levels remained less than 20% after play. Afterward. SCP-5031 began to use its hands to play with the basketball, possibly to avoid accidentally damaging it. Motor skill comparable to that of a toddler. SCP-5031 still prefers bowling ball for kicking. 05/04/2018. Round 3 tests. Food. Summary. Forward. SCP-5031 was given the choice between two potential food sources placed at opposite ends of the enclosure. Choices: human corpse or pig carcass. Selection: pig carcass. Choices: pig carcass or chicken carcass. Selection: pig carcass. Choices: pig carcass or rotisserie chicken. Selection: rotisserie chicken. Choices: chicken carcass or rotisserie chicken. Selection: rotisserie chicken. Choices: live chicken or rotisserie chicken. Selection: rotisserie chicken. Choices: roasted turkey or rotisserie chicken. Selection: neither, presumed sated. Afterward. While it's true that SCP-5031 doesn't necessarily need to eat, feeding it regularly has caused a marked decrease in average stress levels. Stress reduction seems to scale proportionally with the quality of food provided. Also of note is that SCP-5031 prefers to use its tail to pry and cut meat into bite-sized portions rather than rip the meat into chunks with its teeth. or hands. 12/04/2018. Round 4 tests. Coexistence. Summary. Test 1. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject common chicken introduced to enclosure. Result. SCP-5031 observed subject from a distance for several minutes and then rolled a bowling ball towards subject at high speed. Subject was killed instantly. SCP-5031's stress levels rose immediately and drastically. Test 2. Bowling balls removed from enclosure. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject, common chicken, introduced to enclosure. Result. SCP-5031 gently rolled a basketball towards subject. Ball hit subject lightly. Subject responded with a small cry and moved away. SCP-5031 did not engage with subject any further. Test 3. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject, Class D, blindfolded, introduced to the enclosure and instructed to sit and roll basketball forward, then wait until it came back and roll away again. Result. Subject and SCP-5031 successfully rolled the ball back and forth for several minutes. SCP-5031 eventually abandoned the activity and approached the subject. Per safety protocol, subject removed their blindfold to terminate the activity. Test 4. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject, Class D, introduced in the enclosure and instructed to toss a tennis ball at the wall. Let it ricochet behind them, then catch and repeat. Result. SCP-5031 stood behind subject and successfully engaged in a game of catch, mimicking subject's action of letting ball ricochet against the wall. Afterward, SCP-5031's motor skills appear to be rapidly improving. 1605/2018. Round 5 tests. Symbols. Summary. Forward. 5 LCD displays were fitted into the wall of SCP-5031's enclosure, each with a lit button and a food dispenser underneath. Test 1. 2 stations activated. Screen 1 displayed the image of a rock. Its button dispensed rocks. Screen 2 displayed the image of a rotisserie chicken. Its button dispensed pieces of chicken. Result. SCP-5031 poked at the image of the chicken for a few minutes and eventually hit the button. Chicken was dispensed until SCP-5031 was satisfied. Test 2. Screen displays and the materials dispensed were swapped. Result. SCP-5031 hit the button it had hit the previous day and received a rock. It then went to the other screen and hit the button to dispense chicken. Test 3. Screen displays and materials dispensed were swapped back to their original positions and set to swap again at random intervals after the first distribution. Result. SCP-5031 went directly to the button next to the image of the chicken, experienced apparent confusion after the first mid-distribution swap, but quickly learned to watch the images. Test 4. 3 more stations, screens, buttons, dispensers were activated. 4 stations displayed the word rock and dispensed rocks. 1 station displayed the word chicken and dispensed chicken. Arrangement set to change randomly several times over the following days. Result. Through trial and error, SCP-5031 determined which station dispensed chicken. SCP-5031 subsequently went to the station marked chicken whenever the displays were swapped. Test 5. All stations deactivated except 1. Screen displayed the word chicken. 7 wood blocks were set in front of the station, each marked with one of the letters in the word chicken. The station's button was set to remain unlit and inactive until the blocks were arranged in the correct order. Result. SCP-5031 expressed apparent frustration, hitting the inactive button repeatedly and striking the wall with its tail. Test 6. Same as previous test, but screen displayed the word chicken with each letter overlaid on a photo of a wood block. Result. After 12 minutes, SCP-5031 successfully assembled the word chicken. Afterward, it can learn language, Yusuf. Forward, SCP-5031 has learned to use letter blocks to form the following words. Foods: chicken, turkey, pork, tofu, beef, bread, more salt, more pepper, more cooked. Music: Mozart, Enya, Ben Folds, Forest, Seaside, white noise, more volume, less volume, and silence. Play: basketball, bowling ball, tennis ball, cat, dog, human, Robert.
No, wait a minute. Did it ask for Enya? Did that fucking thing ask for Enya? Look at this thing. Look, okay. Let me put my glasses back on. Look at this motherfucking thing. It's just full screen. I mean, I could make it bigger than this, but it'd fuck my whole shit up. So, this is what you get. Look, this motherfucker right here. This
D52125.
This thing, whatever the fuck it is and wherever the hell it came from, asked to listen to Enya in stereo and be able to stop and start the fucking tape wherever. Look, see, this shit is crazy. I'm telling you. I'm not shitting you. I stumbled on this site fucking a decade ago. And I've been watching it ever since. I've seen it grow from 3,000 entries to what it is now, like 9,000. They're in the 9,000 series now. Yeah. So the early shit is really good, but this shit is interesting too. Some of this shit is fucking hilarious. But yeah, it wanted to listen to Enya. Okay, well, fair enough. Hey, to each his own.
Stanley, and alone. Afterward, through its increased vocabulary and human interaction, SCP-5031 has made the following progress: established food preferences and dish pairings, learned to sing non-verbally, and learned to juggle. Six-handed juggling is something to behold. 05-10-2018. Round 7 tests. Activities. Summary. Test 1. Introduced table, paper, and crayons into the enclosure. Live subject D52125 instructed to demonstrate drawing for SCP-5031. Result: SCP-5031 learned to draw. Discernible subjects depicted in its artwork include D52125, SCP-5031, a rotisserie chicken, a cat, and myself. Test 2. Introduced piano to the enclosure. Live subject D52125 instructed to play chopsticks blindfolded and invite SCP-5031 to play along. Subject had time to practice beforehand. Result: SCP-5031 learned chopsticks in 2 days, though it appeared more interested in making its own original music complete with vocals. These compositions might be considered crude by human standards. Test 3. Introduced spice rack into the enclosure. Live subject D52125 instructed to demonstrate seasoning meats. Result: SCP-5031 spent almost 3 straight days experimenting with different combinations of foods and spices. SCP-5031 assembled the words more with its letter blocks after running out of garlic powder. Afterward, SCP-5003 only engages with art and music when accompanied by D52125, but it continues to be preoccupied with food preparation even when alone. 04/01/2019. Round 8 tests. Cooking. Results. Forward. Basic kitchen utilities installed in enclosure. Sharp implements withheld per security protocol. SCP-5031 used its tail to cut food. Live subject D52125 instructed to demonstrate preparation of various recipes. Recipes learned: quesadilla, taco, hamburger, fried rice, Mongolian beef, spicy chicken curry, chocolate chip cookies, sponge cake with buttercream, fudge, clam chowder, steak, macaroons, chicken aboto, smoked salmon, and profiteroles. Afterward, SCP-5031 has a severe peanut allergy. This should be included in the revised containment procedures. I would also like to note that SCP-5031 is now a better chef than the average human. It has begun to create its own recipes. D52125 has volunteered to taste test. 30/06/2019. Update. SCP-5031 has said its first word. Salt. We are all immensely proud. 29/11/2019. Final test. Summary. SCP-5031 was given 2 months to develop a 3-course meal to serve at the Biosite-59 cafeteria for personnel working over Thanksgiving. Its selections were as follows. First course. Sweet potato turmeric miso soup. Second course. Duck confit with apple cider glaze and cranberry compote topping paired with butternut squash gnocchi on a bed of kale seasoned with truffle salt. Third course. A slice of spiced cassava pie topped with French vanilla ice cream and maple hazelnut syrup. SCP-5031 also debuted its original composition, Piano Sonata for 6 Hands, in a live performance broadcast from its enclosure. Personnel response was overwhelmingly positive. SCP-5031 stress levels at 0%. Testing successfully concluded. Revised documentation submitted for approval. This concludes today's lecture. Thank you.
What about that crazy shit? Yeah, some of them are really fucking weird and funny and just out there. And some of them are like, the whole universe is going to fucking die in 2 seconds if we don't keep doing this. If we miss a beat, everything's gone. And you wouldn't even know it was there in the first place. So, yeah. Okay. That was funny as fuck. That was called, hang on. Boop. Yet another murder monster. Omnivorous SCP. Keter class. You can learn about the classes. Hang on. Maybe I'll show that. Well, we can do this. We can do this.
Object classes relate to the difficulty of
Look,
containing an
stop,
SCP.
Motherfucker. Jesus Christ. Give me a goddamn second. I didn't know you were short. How about we will go back and fuck that short shit. Okay, where am I? There I am. Okay. Oh, hey, everybody in chat. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. I'm playing some creepy SCP stories. Well, the first 2 were funny. I mean, if you want to watch them again, they're there. But they're, I linked the website. Maybe I should do that again. I don't know. I'll get to it. But I linked their website earlier in the YouTube chat. And yeah, this is where all this stuff comes from. And let's find some other weird shit to watch. You know. Okay. Look. Boop. 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 Okay. This is explaining. I mean, look, I'm just going to add it to the stage and put it backstage, and you guys can listen to it if you want to. But I'm not playing the video because, three strikes, I'm out, I guess. So, but hello, everybody watching and lurking and chatting. So, shall we do one more? Let's explain what's actually fucking going on with the classifications in the SCP Foundation.
There are mainly three object classes many have seen: Safe, Euclid, and Keter. But there is more object classes, if you didn't know that. Containment class, secondary class, disruption class. Disruption class refers to an anomalous ability to disturb the status quo and or break the veil. Risk class. Risk class refers to the severity of an anomalous effect on an individual person and how easily one can recover from it. Object classes. All anomalous objects, entities, and phenomena requiring special containment procedures are assigned an object class. An object class is a part of the standard SCP template and serves as a rough indicator for how difficult an object is to contain. In Universe, object classes are for the purposes of identifying containment needs, research priority, budgeting, and other considerations. An SCP's object class is determined by a number of factors, but the most important factors are the difficulty and the purpose of its containment. Primary classes. These are the most common object classes used in SCP articles and make up the bulk of the objects. Safe. Safe class SCPs are anomalies that are easily and safely contained. This is often due to the fact that the Foundation has researched the SCP well enough that containment does not require significant resources, or that the anomalies require a specific and conscious activation or trigger. Euclid. Euclid class SCPs are anomalies that require more resources to contain completely or where containment isn't always reliable. Usually this is because the SCP is insufficiently understood or inherently unpredictable. As a note, any SCP that's autonomous, sentient, and/or sapient is generally classified as Euclid, due to the inherent unpredictability of an object that can act or think on its own. Keter. Keter class SCPs are anomalies that are exceedingly difficult to contain consistently or reliably, with containment procedures often being extensive and complex. The Foundation often can't contain these SCPs well due to not having a solid understanding of the anomaly, or lacking the technology to properly contain or counter it. A Keter SCP does not mean the SCP is dangerous, just that it is simply very difficult or costly to contain. Formule class SCPs are anomalies that the Foundation specifically uses to contain other SCPs. Even the mere existence of Formule class objects is classified at the highest levels of the Foundation, and their locations, functions, and current status are known to few Foundation personnel outside of the O5 Council. Neutralized. Neutralized SCPs are anomalies that are no longer anomalous, either through having been intentionally or accidentally destroyed or disabled. Apollyon. Apollyon class SCPs are anomalies that cannot be contained, are expected to breach containment imminently, or some other similar scenario. Such anomalies are usually associated with world-ending threats or a K-class scenario of some kind and require a massive effort from the Foundation to deal with. Archon. Archon class SCPs are anomalies that could theoretically be contained, but are best left uncontained for some reason. Archon SCPs may be a part of consensus reality that is difficult to fully contain or may have adverse effects if put into containment. These SCPs are not uncontainable. The defining feature of the class is that the Foundation chooses to not put the anomaly into containment. Non-standard object classes. The following object classes are subclasses that supplement the object's primary or former classification. Explained. Explained SCPs are commonly articles about anomalies that are completely and fully understood to the point where their effects are now explainable by mainstream science, or phenomena that have been debunked or falsely mistaken as an anomaly. Pending. SCP articles that have not yet been assigned an object class may be labeled as pending. This is used to indicate that the Foundation is actively researching the anomaly, but doesn't have enough information yet to give it an object class. This is a deliberate decision to emphasize that a story is ongoing, and isn't the same as the author not knowing which object class to assign. Esoteric or narrative classes. Esoteric object classes, also occasionally referred to as narrative classes, are object classes that do not fall into any of the above sections. They are generally only used once and are created to further the narrative in a particular SCP. It is highly recommended that SCPs use one of the standard object classes listed here. While some authors choose to introduce exceptions to these rules, they are only very rarely done and need to justify their existence and placement. Many site members will downvote for non-standard object classes if used without merit. Decommissioned. Decommissioned SCPs are an object class that was used by senior staff in the past to not only delete unwanted articles, but place them in a sort of wall of shame to serve as examples of what not to do. This object class is not used anymore. Decommissioning articles is not done anymore, partly because such heavy-handed edits by SCP staff are no longer allowed, and partly because decommissioning ended up backfiring. See the History of the Universe Hub for more historical information about decommissioned SCPs and their usage in the past. Object Class FAQ. What is the locked box test? The locked box test is an informal guideline used to determine
Okay. Now you know. I'm just saying. The rest of the shit was about writing articles for the site. Yeah, and how you're included or excluded depending on how good or bad your stories are. But I like it. Okay. We will move on. Moving on. Let's take the next step. What was this? Oh, okay. Fair. Oh, okay. No. All right. This is a Euclid. This is a Euclid class SCP. And it's fucking weird. This one's fucking. This isn't funny. This one isn't funny. It's fucking weird. I'm just giving you a heads up. Just letting you know. Don't get taken aback. These are creepy stories on a Friday after the Friday the 13th. That was last week, wasn't it? Today's the 20th, right? Yeah, so at least I can still math a little bit. Okay, what we're going to do? Oh, we were going to put this on the stage and then it's a black screen. So we're going to listen to another story. Jesus, it's been an hour. Let's do the time warp again. Wait, what? Oh, okay, gotcha. Dirt. Curb dirt. No. Here we go.
Special containment procedures. Research Station 5 has been built directly above SCP-4431-A. Seismometers across Antarctica will monitor activity from SCP-4431-A and report any irregularities in the anomaly's behavior. At least one boring probe and an ice sheet drilling mechanism are to be kept at the station in the event that investigation of SCP-4431-A is necessary. Contact is to be maintained with all Foundation and non-Foundation research stations in Antarctica for reports of SCP-4431-B manifestations. If a manifestation is reported, personnel at the station are advised to monitor the manifestation and resultant SCP-4431-C instances. Objects left by expired instances are to be transported to the nearest Foundation facility. Mobile Task Force Psi-1, dispatched from Miskatonic, will be deployed for containment if necessary. Non-Foundation personnel that witness these anomalies will be administered appropriate amnestics on leaving Antarctica. Cover stories regarding the Dayton Bannard Antarctic expedition have been disseminated, reporting the expedition ship as having vanished en route to the Filcher ice shelf. As surviving personal accounts from Bannard describe a wide variety and number of anomalous phenomena beyond SCP-4431, all information on the expedition has been acquired by the Foundation. Potential links between the events of the expedition and SCP-4431-A's current activity are of high concern. Description: SCP-4431 designates two subterranean artificial structures, SCP-4431-A and B, and a collection of psionic organisms designated SCP-4431-C present in East Antarctica. SCP-4431-A is a machine located 3,400 meters below the Antarctic Plateau, buried in the bedrock under the East Antarctic ice sheet. The object's depth renders it undetectable by ice-penetrating radar, preventing full analysis of its appearance and size. Current size estimates include a minimum width of 20 kilometers. As drilling investigations to examine the structure invariably end in failure, refer to Discovery, no further information on SCP-4431-A is known. SCP-4431-B is a cylindrical tunnel constructed from a rhodium-platinum alloy, with a 11-meter interior radius. The tunnel extends for 39 meters before reaching a sharp vertical drop, which descends for a distance estimated to be a minimum of 3,000 meters. SCP-4431-B will manifest in a region of the Antarctic Plateau on a bi-monthly basis, rising out of the terrain until a majority of its entrance is exposed. A variable number of SCP-4431-C instances will then exit, often between 1 or 7. After a period of time ranging from 8 hours to 3 days, SCP-4431-B demanifests, retracting into the ground. Connection with tracking devices placed on the structure during demanifestation are all lost after 2 hours, preventing observation of SCP-4431-B's relocation. The body structure of SCP-4431-C instances can vary, though consistent details have been determined. These details are as follows: 1 meter tall, upright conical bodies, with the main body and each limb segmented in a manner similar to arthropods. The main body is divided into 3 sections. 4 or more legs attached to the base of the body. Variable numbers of 3-meter-long tendrils on the body's midsection, each ending in a claw. A toroidal mass covered in small, unknown biological structures fixed around the top of the body, presumed to be a form of sensory organ. A set of mandibles on the bottom of the cone. Anatomical deviations tend to include features that aid in withstanding Antarctic conditions or other purposes. Tumorous growths acting as heat radiators have been observed, along with cybernetic flamethrower implants. Many instances possess conical protrusions on their body, which open to dispense environmental monitoring devices. Rarely, instances are found with the tops of their bodies replaced by antennas and clusters of spherical machinery that serve similar purposes. Following SCP-4431-B manifestation, SCP-4431-C instances will attempt to construct makeshift structures from any surrounding materials, presumably intended to be shelters. Instances typically expire in a few hours from environmental factors, though ones brought into containment have an average lifespan of 11 hours. Primary cause of death is the gradual degradation of internal organs. Following this, all organic matter on the instance dissolves into a bright pink fluid, hereafter referred to as hemorosin. Instances possess psionic abilities, used for the manipulation of objects, surroundings, and entities. Limited telepathic communication has been displayed on occasion. Information on the suspected origins of SCP-4431 is restricted. Addendum 4431-1. Discovery. The first reports of SCP-4431 are from 1919, when an Antarctic expedition led by former British naval officer Dayton Bannard repeatedly encountered SCP-4431-B and C instances, Refer to Addendum 4431-1. Accounts of SCP-4431-B manifestations continued after the first Antarctic research stations were established, leading to SCP-4431-B and C being classified as anomalies in the year 2000. SCP-4431-A came to the attention of the Foundation in March of 2019, when Foundation personnel operating at Research Outpost 2 in the Antarctic Plateau detected abnormal seismic activity originating from an underground location. Based on Foundation simulations of Earth's tectonic plate movement, it was determined that this could be the possible location of a ring-shaped lake depicted on SCP-2651-A. Presuming it was not destroyed by geologic activity and prehistoric K-class events after approximately 700 million years. Plans for excavation were proposed when the source of the activity triangulated to a region 10 kilometers in radius. In June of 2019, a specialized boring probe was sent through the ice sheet and drilled into the bedrock, attaining a depth of 3,400 meters before entering a cavern with an oxygen-rich atmosphere and contacting a metal surface. Images from the probe show the surface to be covered in an array of mechanical appendages that were in the process of excavating the cavern ceiling. All readings from the probe were lost an hour after contact. Retrieval attempts failed due to the sudden collapse of the sub-bedrock section of the borehole and the formation of the frozen hemerosin within the main drilling mechanism. All subsequent drilling investigations have experienced similar outcomes. SCP-4431-A was registered as an anomaly in August of 2019. Of note is that since the first drilling investigation, the number of recorded SCP-4431-B manifestations has increased. Addendum 4431-2. Dayton Bannard Journal Excerpts. The following are relevant excerpts from the personal journal of Dayton Bannard, written during his expedition to reach the South Pole. Bannard failed to keep dates for a majority of entries, and the excerpts are suspected to have been written during spring of early 1919. Recovered photographs are included. Bannard, 4431, Excerpts 1.
Searching for Giles was a fruitless endeavor. The snow had been piling up for hours, ruining any footprints, and not a soul could be seen on the horizon in such heavy blue twilight. I shouted for him in vain attempts before I gave up and went back to base. By the time I returned, the snow had piled up high enough by our ramshackle hut, and I had to dig my way in. I shut the door behind me and there was silence. No sounds from my crew members, nor the gusts outside, only the creaks of wood as I moved. Then I heard it. A constant clicking that started up, stopped, and kept repeating. I crept towards the main room's entrance, peeking around the corner and suddenly freezing in place. A hole was in one of the walls, fully plugged up with snow. And standing in the center was a beast I can barely begin to describe. Its body was a cone, resting on 4 spider-like legs, whip-like limbs swirling around it, a ring-shaped thing resting on top. I nearly screamed then and there. My heart was racing as its body swayed and stumbled towards me. I felt a splitting headache, and then a voice rang out in my head. This voice, so much unlike a voice, I may as well not describe it as such, said a single word. Home. The beast's body then softened like a cracker being dipped in water, collapsing apart into a foul-smelling pink fluid. There was a sudden tremor, and then the walls around buckled. I rested in that snow for what felt like an eternity, praying to God. Once the crew pulled me to my feet, they told me that the beast had barged in through the wall while I was out, prompting everyone to hide where they could. Nobody saw what it did before I returned. Once we started eating, Sai started to panic. He kept asking over and over again if the beast was some type of demon, wondering if he heard the voice of the devil himself. I suspect he heard the same voice I did. I wish I had an answer. When we had fully awoken, Richard proposed we go out and find where the beast had come from. We were all apprehensive at first, Sai being the most nervous among us. But after a long discussion, we realized we had little else to do until Lewin's crew returns with supplies. When the snow finally stopped piling up, we went out to survey the area for any abnormalities. The first several hours met with no discoveries, until I heard Abner hollering by a cave entrance. Nothing peculiar struck me when I first entered, but as I went in further I noticed what Abner was obsessing over. At the cave's rear, at the bottom of a long downwards incline fashioned into what seemed like a staircase, was a cavernous tunnel, not composed of ice or rock, but of perfectly smooth metal, the likes of which I have never seen before. It stretched out further than any light could reach. There is no doubt in my mind that this is where the beast came from. I awoke to the sound of splintering wood and a thunderous crash. The wood that made up much of the hut's ceiling buckled under the weight of continued snowfall and dropped a dense wall of snow into the main room. Thankfully, Shelton, who had been sleeping there, was far enough to one side that we were easily able to dig him out. After hours of digging, we were able to form tunnels connecting with all areas of the hut. But we know that this will not work as a shelter much longer. Richard has been adamant that we use the cave, stating that it's our only chance at survival. We all wish that didn't have to be the case, but as I look at the walls around me, I fear that they will collapse a moment too soon. In a few hours' time, the 8 of us will hold a vote on our course of action. All I know is that turning back will not be an option. We unanimously voted to use the cave. I can tell that none of us are enthused by this, especially Sai, who is failing hiding his nervousness under an emotionless veneer. But by now, the den of a monster is more inviting than death under mounds of snow. The snowfall has stopped and we will depart in a few hours' time. So far, the tunnel has proven a good fit for our survival. A constant heat flows out of it, warming the air to the point that Richard was able to not wear any protective clothing 10 meters into it. None of this air escapes far into the cave, relegating us to an eerie darkness. I've dared not go near that pit at the tunnel's end. On multiple occasions, I swear I've heard clicking noises, but whenever I ask, it turns out to have only been myself. Richard has been acting strangely, a statement that seems redundant but is more true than ever before. Every couple of hours, he raps 7 times on the tunnel walls, goes out for what he says are brief strolls, only to carve more esoteric symbols into the cave's ice. He seems happier than I've ever seen him. I've always thought of him to be a mystic who had largely shed his roots for a nobler, educated life. But now, as I watch him, I highly doubt this notion. As Abner does his best to keep morale up by roping everyone into improvised theater performances, I find myself going to the edge of the pit, away from the laughter and commotion, to sit with my own thoughts. I tossed the small religious pendant Giles left behind in there, and carefully listened for it to hit the bottom. A few slight tinks against the metal walls, then silence. All I heard was just my heartbeat. The light from the lamp I bring along is barely provided enough to let me see the walls of this massive structure, so I have no idea of how far down it goes. Occasionally, Richard will join me. He silently walks in and sits a bit farther behind me, gazing off into nothing. We've never exchanged a single word here. To us, it's a sacred place to be alone with our thoughts, and I dare not disturb that peace for anyone. He's far braver than I am in turning off his lamp whenever he arrives, though. I always pointlessly fear that at some point, that shadows will pull me away, leaving the rest of the crew on their own, and this lamp is my safeguard against it. Or perhaps I worry that in darkness I'll stumble and fall to my death. Whatever the reason, with this light I make the things I've seen on the voyage feel less real. We woke up to find that Richard was gone. His sleeping bag was open, with much of his equipment left behind. Abner checked the cave and couldn't find any new marks in the snow, so he had to have still been in the tunnel. After a moment of preparation to retrieve lamps, we started going deep into the tunnel. Minutes later, I turned around to see that everyone had stopped following me several meters back. I ordered them to come forward, but they simply stood there, doing nothing. I decided to go on without them, reaching the edge of the abyss after what felt like hours. I reached the edge, solely hearing the rattling of my lamp and the quickening of my heartbeat. All that I could find was Richard's boots and a single lit lamp. I looked about, all over, hoping I would see him elsewhere in the darkness. But he was nowhere. He'd fallen in. I cursed the heavens and stomped the ground, kicked his lamp with a great swing of the foot, and watched its light tumble down till it vanished. When I came out, I told the crew he'd left without a trace. Eventually, I came to ask why they had stopped following me, despite my clear orders. Quietly, when no one else would speak, Palmer told me that they had begun fearing for their own lives. They saw one of the beasts clinging to the ceiling directly above me. I can't return to the pit anymore. I look down there and swear I see the flickering of light. I look up the walls and swear I see shifting symbols and shapes. And when I close my eyes and look nowhere, I still see something. A ring, a halo suspended in the colorless region under my eyelids. The last time I went today, I started hearing that godforsaken noise, that clicking of the beasts. I peered past the edge, and my lamp snuffed out, whether by my negligence to check the fuel, or something else. I stood there for moments, paralyzed, and I came to a terrible realization. Every time I had been here, the only sound to keep me company would be my heartbeat and interspersed gaseous noises from the lamp. That sound was not my heartbeat. I spun around right as the voices grew from faint whispers to murmurs, and I ran, dropping the lamp and only stopping when I seen the lights of my crew. Tomorrow I will inform the crew of a new rule. Nobody is allowed further than 10 meters away from the tunnel entrance. That hole can only lead to further woes.
Bernard, 4431, excerpts 2.
When I returned from outside and reached the stairwell, I saw the crew outside the tunnel, pressing themselves up against the cavern walls to either side of the entrance. I was about to ask what was happening when Palmer signaled me to be quiet and moved to the far wall. The crew isn't idiotic, so I knew they had a good reason for this, and I quickly followed his command. Silence at first, then scraping, then clicking. I went behind a pillar of ice and peered out to see 3 beasts climb up the staircase. 2 left the cavern while one with massive bulges on its body froze in place. One of the bulges cracked and it shattered, dropping a black sphere. The beast then left to join its companions. Once I knew they were gone, I went to inspect the sphere they left, which had a crude stick figure of a human on it. I tapped it with my foot and it split in half, revealing a growing mass of some sort of pale flesh-like foam that quickly became larger than myself. Eventually it stopped growing and rested there, pulsating. I've been in the tunnel since, unwilling to interact with this thing for the time being. The foam is food. We were on one of our last cans of good meat when Sai threw his to the ground, shouted about how he was sick of it, and then ran out of the tunnel and out the staircase. We chased after him. We couldn't let what Giles did repeat, and saw his face buried in the foam, chewing like a mad animal. He pulled his head out to tell us how great it tasted, then plunged back in. None of us knew what to do at first. Shaw simply shrugged, then joined in, and over time the rest of us did too. It was the most nourishing meal I've had in ages. We pay the beasts far less mind now. We will still go quiet when 3 or more of them march past us in the tunnel, but they have harmed us not. Not even a single voice has been heard. Every 2 days a new food sphere is dropped, even with the other ones being far from replenished. Outside, the beasts continually drop strange objects and apparatuses until they melt into the snow, at which point a new group emerges to repeat the process. Palmer, Abner, and I have tried to understand what these devices do, but their nearly monolithic designs elude us. The twilight continues to haunt us. Certainly it will always be the case until the daylight months return, but Antarctica has come to feel less treacherous. I will continue to keep my guard, though. For the sake of my crew, I won't allow us to be caught when we are vulnerable. Something impossible happened last night, prior to me falling asleep, so I write this the following day. We heard the familiar clanging noises of the beasts, as a new group was nearing the tunnel exit, but there was a difference. I have grown accustomed to hearing the rhythmic noises they make when moving across metal, so when I heard an entirely different set of sounds, I was disturbed. Coming out of the tunnel, flanked on both sides by 2 beasts, was something only vaguely human. It moved on mechanical legs, 6 many-jointed silver arms, dangling, the 7th arm emerging from its chest pointed forward. The torso was hidden under a tattered, blood-stained coat, and a mask of ice that refused to melt. obscured its face. The creature shambled over to me and spoke in a voice like faulty typewriters, introducing itself as Richard Parrish. By that point, I was certain I was dreaming, so I welcomed him back and then fell asleep. When I woke up in the morning, I was not prepared to see him truly exist. I'd be lying if I said that none of us were in shock at Richard's return. He acts as though he never left, only alluding to changes when he calls himself an ambassador for man. Whenever I ask about what happened to him in the pit, he becomes silent, only talking again when the conversation shifts to a different topic. Never has he taken off the mask, saying it's best it stays on. His behavior has also become even more peculiar. He accompanies the beasts when they leave to drop their devices. Then he uses his arms to open the machines and apparently inspect them. He continues to do the 7 knocks on metal ritual, but now it's accompanied by his own clicking sounds. I am certain that the objects he carves with his symbols now glow in the darkness. It is faint, but I know it's there. When nothing else is happening, he'll ramble about nonsensical subjects. All I can understand are sentences about how everyone should be bleeding. I can't trust him. I mustn't. In the afternoon, or at least what felt like it, I assembled Abner and Palmer for what I told the crew was a survey of the outside to find the best route for the expedition. In reality, we went to check the devices. Richard was returning to the tunnel when we left, so we knew that not a soul would see us. The target of our investigation was a cubic machine. It had an array of limbs that stabbed the snow and pumped a brown fluid into it, staining the area. The 3 of us tried to pull a limb out of the ground, and then tried to hoist the entire object, but we found that it was firmly stuck in place. Abner spotted a panel on one side and opened it, exposing some sort of spherical contraption surrounded by wires on the inside. Messing with the interior of a potentially dangerous mechanism was a terrible idea, so we started digging up the snow around it. The ice was wholly being replaced by some form of pale purple dirt, blue plant things sprouting in it. Palmer rushed over to a near-identical object, dug around and found more purple dirt and blue plants. For an hour we watched the ice transmute into dirt and sprout plants like nothing I've heard of. Even small slug-like creatures began to take form from fluids in the soil. We returned to the tunnel an hour later. Recently, Sai has taken an interest in Richard's nonsense. He'll sit by him, listening to every word he says like a student with their teacher. I swear I've seen him take notes on a scrap of paper once. Today, when Richard started the knocking, he joined in, and now they are repeating the same chants as I write. I haven't seen him scared at the sight of a beast since. Sai may be the youngest, but he isn't idiotic. That much I know. If he is willing to listen and follow along with the occult, then there must be a reason for it. What such a reason could be escapes me.
Is anybody still listening? Yeah. This is like some Lovecraft horror shit. Yeah, this is like Eldritch horror beyond the dimensions of, yeah. So, I mean, if you don't get it and you don't like it, I mean, it's fair enough. I mean, I'll pick something else. I'll play that one about the fucking end of the world shit. Because it's been an hour and a half. And, you know, this is some of the stuff I listen to. I do need to fucking put his channel on my community page and make sure. Yeah. Because, yeah, he does good shit and a couple other people do good shit. There's this story called the Red Sea Object. It takes an hour. Look, it'll take more than an hour to read. Somebody did a video. Takes an hour to explain. It's weird and creepy and fucking, I don't know. You just have to watch it. Yeah. Or listen to it. Well, yeah, but is that a good thing or a bad thing, Orange? Let us continue. Hang on, where am I at? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, gotcha. Look.
I was returning from a brief look outside when Richard approached me, telling me that he had questions. He led me to a section of the cave away from the tunnel and asked me why Palmer, Abner, and I keep leaving to inspect the machines. He saw us. I said I was only interested in what they were doing, in as calm of a manner as I could muster. Like a faulty record, he started asking if I meant harm incessantly. I kept responding with no, but as he asked, I began doubting how true my answer was. He abruptly paused, placed a hand on my shoulder, and asked if I realized the importance the beasts held. I was so out of my wits that I was silent. He said that if I was interested in the machines, I should be joining him in his rituals. He claimed that it would be an enlightening experience for everyone, and a path with more opportunities than heading for the South Pole. I nearly lost my nerve, and shouted about how far we had come since we departed, and how renowned we would be upon returning. He sighed, said that it was pointless to be in the shadow of Amundsen when there was a higher purpose below, then left for the tunnel.
Oh, hey, fair enough, Orange. Hey, look, I appreciate you stopping by and contributing, and I hope you enjoyed my creepiness. I mean, what else am I going to say? But yeah, take care. I'll catch up with you. I'm around. We're almost done harvesting. We still got more pumpkins to harvest to, make the Halloween quota or whatever. However that works. I don't know. I just get them up off the ground and put them in the wagon, and then they take them off and deal with all that shit. But I figured I'd have a creepy day today. Instead of playing music all the time and getting copyright claims on left and right, hey, I may get them now. I don't know. I really don't know. I hope not. Be nice if I don't. But, we'll see what happens. So. Oh, wait, there. Gotcha. Ow.
Whether by our digging that exposed the dirt, or by the whims of the machines, the dirt has replaced at least half an acre. The plants have become spore-spewing pillars, and the slugs as large as my feet, occasionally dividing like cells or inflating into zeppelin creatures that fly to the horizon and out of sight. The other machines seem to be helping the growth, releasing dirt-making fluid and foam for the animals. The beasts simply perform inspections and leave devices farther out into the tundra. It is reassuring that the expansion seems to have slowed down, but the amount of life here is constantly increasing. It's as if every time I turn to look, some new type of slug or plant has been born. The situation at the tunnel seems to be equally deteriorating. Sai isn't alone. Sure, Shelton and Esben are all involved in hourly rituals. They barely notice when I call out to them, more intent on every move Richard makes, and his talk of impossible stars, bleeding gods, and world-sized corpses. The only one to pay me any mind is Esben. Initially, I was afraid by how nonsensical Richard seemed to be. Now I'm afraid that the nonsense is true. I'm not one to keep logs of dreams, but this one has happened so often and is recalled so clearly that I must write it down. It starts with 7 points of light in darkness. 1 point cracks and bleeds pink liquid, which coalesce into a thin glowing ring. Then there is a planet, the details of which are just fuzz. The ring emerges on the planet and stays until the planet cracks. A second planet, covered in what I think are green oceans, appears, and the ring emerges again. Something made of flesh rises on it, and the planet vanishes, replaced by another covered in purple soil with the pink ring on it. A hole opens, and the ring appears above Antarctica. A week ago when I heard the voice, I didn't know why it said home. Surely the home of such a monstrosity would be long ways off from here, down in the underworld where it belongs. It had to have been confused. Now I realize demons are far too human for what these are. I woke up last night while everyone was sleeping after feeling something rub against my back. Standing overhead was Richard, reading my journal and dripping the damn pink blood out of his mask as he did so. He'd reached behind my back, into my sleeping bag, and pulled it out. I tried to stay as still as possible, provide an illusion of slumber. Minutes that felt like years passed, and he dropped the journal in front of me, stepping over me and walking deeper into the tunnel. Once I was sure he'd left, I reached to pull my journal back to safety when a metal hand slammed down onto mine. I was dragged out of my bed. I've forgotten the rest. It isn't safe here anymore. I won't write until it is.
Bernard, 4431, excerpts 3.
Earlier today, I woke Abner and Palmer to tell them about last night's events. There was no doubt we had to move. Everyone else was sleeping, and I had seen Richard go deep into the tunnel with 2 beasts, so we quietly packed whatever supplies we could. Palmer accidentally woke Esben, who we told would be departing to survey the land. Though Esben was luckily sane, he pleaded to come with us, saying that the rituals Richard started seemed entertaining at first, but are now incredibly disturbing. Although I am wary I brought him along, more hands on deck is always better. Our trek outside was uneventful. Though the ecosystem the beasts have been creating with the dirt is now flourishing, the amount of plants has increased to the point where much of the purple ground is covered in strange yellows and blues. Insects would scurry out of our path before I could get a good look at them, and the slugs, now as large as horses, were feasting on the remains of something long. We were all happy to be out of there. I am currently writing this within the hut we abandoned. I don't know how long it will stay standing. Once it does fall, I don't know where we will go. Our supplies will last us for a few days, but when they run out, I know Lewin's crew will be too far away to aid us. God help me. When we left yesterday, someone had to have been listening to our move. Through one of the windows I can see Richard, Shaw, Shelton, and Cy standing side by side in the distance. I think they are watching the hut. I told the crew we'll be staying on guard. It's an hour later. Richard, Shaw, and Cy have left for the cave. Shelton seemed to fall in the snow and vanish. I occasionally see brief movement under the snow, but it feels like my mind is playing tricks on me. An hour after my last entry, Shelton broke into the hut. I heard the shattering of glass, and I found that he had lunged through the window at Abner, trying to strangle him. I kicked him off, and the 4 of us got him restrained and tied up to a chair. His skin had paled since we last saw him, and a metal cylinder, warm to the touch, had been embedded in his chest. We tried to get him out to talk, but much like Richard, he went quiet and stared nowhere.
Damn.
Esben then knelt down by the chair, whispered a sentence in the language Richard was so fond of, and he started shaking. He told us that Richard wanted to speak with me, a statement he kept repeating again and again. Either that was all his brain let him say, or he needed to keep quiet about something else. Mid-sentence, he went quiet, gurgled a bit, then his whole head started to melt and sink below the collar of his jacket. Like a heated wax statue of his whole body liquefied, and all that remained was a pool of pink blood. After much deliberation, I will head out to meet with Richard. I can see him from the window, standing at the edge of the ecosystem. If I don't return, I'll leave Abner in charge of what little remains of the expedition. He'll make it to the pole in my honor. I survived. When I arrived, the only people there were Cy and Richard. I was hoping the pink blood stains wouldn't be obvious on my clothes, but now I inspect them. It's clear they could see it. They knew what happened. Richard made some sort of noise, a chuckle, and he said that they did not mean the world harm, that after this shaky start it would improve. Richard's body, for lack of accurate words, unfolded. His body spasmed open and a cylindrical spire shot out of the fractured remains, growing like a deranged plant. I recoiled, with Cy taking the chance to start choking me, not noticing the axe I had brought. I'm cleaning the viscera off it as I write. Once the regrettable deed was done, it was far too late for Richard, though. The spire was thicker than his entire torso, and was growing by the second. pulling the rest of his mass and the surrounding terrain inwards with twisted metal tendrils. Every single apparatus the creatures had left behind was pulled in and incorporated into its mass, with similarly shaped protrusions forming on the sides. The last words I heard from him were, "Protect existence." His head was pulled in with a sickening crunch right after. All I could do was run. The rest of the day has been spent with the crew, watching from the camp in horror as the tower grows taller than the highest steeples. The Antarctic night is setting in, and the bright red lights are flickering along the tower's sides.
The next 7 pages consist of drawings. It is unknown what many of the drawings represent, though several have been identified as SCP-4431-C instances, vehicles resembling those found at Martian impact crater Herschel, unknown organisms, and sketches depicting the tower previously described. The only text present is the word "spreading."
Under those unearthly lights of the flora and tower, I can spot someone entering a vehicle, almost like the tanks my military friend spoke of. Unless they are operated in unimaginable ways, these will be our best chance. First priority is halting the beasts. I won't let myself be responsible for not ending this when I had the chance. God give us strength. In the morning, the crew and I gathered any tools that could serve as weapons and our best supplies, then set out to the tower. With Cy and Shelton dead and Richard effectively gone, the only dangers would be the beasts, the creatures of the ecosystem, and Shaw. As we moved, the beasts levitating around the tower's exterior and adjusting its external machinery melted into a pink rain, which I hoped had rid us of one more problem. Once we entered the ecosystem, much of the fauna ignored us, more interested in violently attacking each other or mating in bizarre manners. After several minutes, we finally saw the tank up close. The vehicle's main mass is a sideways egg-shaped contraption, with large treads attached on either side. Above each tread is a massive mechanical structure, reminding me of the bulky front limbs and claws of crabs. Problems emerged right as we reached it. Shaw opened the tank's hatch and stepped out, noticed us, then began shouting. Esben shouted something back before being pushed against the tank by an invisible force. 2 men, each with bodies built like Richard's, but with the exact same face as Shelton, stepped around the tank's edge and babbled in more of that language before running towards us. Abner fired his rifle, but the same force made the bullets slow and drop like stones. Palmer made a similar attempt by throwing his lamp, but it was tossed far off behind them, breaking and starting a fire. When they were pressed against the side as well, I was certain I was done for, but they froze and stared at me. They were waiting for me to make a move, to have a reason to retaliate. My body was freezing, and without shelter inside the vehicle, I would perish. Panicking, I scurried around looking for anything I could use. When I found a small slug, likely only recently spawned, disregarding any rational thought, I grabbed it and threw it at one of the Shelton duplicates, who didn't so much as flinch. The slug emitted a gurgling screech, and a larger entity shambled out of the darkness, resembling one of the slugs, but standing on spindly legs. Its head split open into massive tentacles, and the Shelton was pulled into its maw. Esben and Abner fell onto the ground and rushed to open the hatch. The last Shelton pulled me toward them, folding their mouth open and releasing a long silver structure. In a stroke of luck, I still had the ice axe on me, and once I reached them, I could save myself from whatever fate awaited me. I crashed onto the ground and sprinted for the hatch, which Esben had holding open as Palmer got in. When I reached it, one of the blasted beasts suddenly emerged from the darkness, wrapping its tendrils around the door edges and grabbing onto poor Esben. He was whipped off into the darkness, screaming, until a series of metal scrapes and wet cracking sounds rang out. I shut the hatch and the area instantly warmed. In a stroke of luck, the tank's interior is designed as if its makers intended for men to operate it, with various easily accessed storage cabinets along the sides and a ladder leading to a hatch on the top. Abner was at a seat in the front, looking at an array of glass panels suspended by mechanical structures. Each panel glowed and presented views from outside the tank. Despite none of the panels being connected to any wall, or having any movie projector. He slowly experimented with every button and mechanism until we started moving forward, colliding into the tower. My memory of the next events is heavily broken, and trying to recall it brings on intense mental pains.
Well, hang on. What? The dude, he was pressing all the buttons, okay? And he didn't know what any of them did. What if one of them was the history eraser button? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. For anybody who watched Ren and Stimpy back in the day, it's the history eraser button. But yeah, this is some Lovecraft shit. Yeah. Okay. We will continue, and I will shut up.
Abner began ramming against the tower while pushing with the tank's claws to make it topple. And with each thud, I heard the voice of Richard. It shouted at me, telling me that I was idiotic. And with every collision, it screamed louder to call me a murderer and a killer of humanity's future. Why do I write it in capitals? The last I remember was the voice, sobbing. The next moment I can remember is us driving away from the tower, which had just collapsed and crushed the cave. Through the panels, I can now see massive gashes in the tower's exterior, flashing impossibly vibrant colors. The next several hours have been silent reminiscing. I've told Abner to drive faster, as I know this cannot be a safe object to be around. Abner beckoned the two of us over to see what was happening on the panels. The colors from the tower had grown bright enough to be like the rising sun, and the surrounding snow and rocks were being lifted into the air around it. I then witnessed a sight I cannot stop thinking about. A number of large black tendrils pushed out of the ruins of the cave and began pulling the tower into the snow. It was as if the tunnel had come to life and needed something that was in that infernal pillar. There was a violent explosion soon after. I felt the entire vehicle get lifted into the air and thrown back down, which we think has broken one of Palmer's ribs from a collision with the ladder. Looking outside now, the site where we had been is now a white inferno, illuminating the sky and creating the illusion of a sunny day. We were driving when we heard a loud, wet slam come from right outside the vehicle. I opened the hatch to look out, and lo and behold, Richard had come for a visit. His torso was little more than an amalgam of metal, pulling itself through the snow with 3 broken arms, a comet trail of pink and red blood stretching out of the crater he made in the snow. I ordered Abner to stop driving, but he kept at the wheel, not even making eye contact with me. He didn't even consider how important this was. I yelled as much as I could until the fool stopped. I went to sit by Richard as 2 wound-shaped mouths began babbling like a dying phonograph. I caressed its head. Never have I seen metal crumple so much beneath single presses, whispered apologies to the holes in its face, and swung my axe down, over and over. Not a word has been spoken since I returned. I remember my departure from England, how I spoke of being able to witness grandeur none in my village would ever see. Sure enough, I have seen a world no other man will come to witness, one that puts Amundsen's kiddie sightseeing to shame. If the map this machine shows is to be believed, we are getting closer to our destination by the second. I never needed Abner to drive. Sadly, my ink has nearly run out, and my pencil's mere stubs, so my entries on what's left of the journey will be far less frequent. For the crew members who have died, I am sorry, and I do not ask that you forgive me. I will continue in your honor. I will reach this damned pole, and may God cast me out of heaven if I don't.
Notably, a ring-shaped stain of hemerosin is present on the upper left corner of this page. No further entries are present. The
Has everybody got bored yet? I mean, I know this is a super fucking long one, and I guess my bad because it's over 45 minutes. But you know, we got about 5 minutes left, more or less. Um, and we'll see what happens next. How about that?
Journal and photographs were discovered after Mobile Task Force Psi-1 located the tank vehicle of Bannard and the remaining crew in July of 2000, 11 kilometers away from the South Pole. Although the tank had retained power and heating due to its anomalous power source, one of the treads had been heavily damaged and prevented continued movement. Inside the tank was the decayed cadaver of a male human, who had expired from repeated penetrations on the body, matching those caused by an ice axe. The identity of the cadaver has not been determined. The fate of the Bannard crew is unknown. Addendum 4431-3 South Pole Incident. On 2009-2019, severe seismic activity occurred at the site of the geographic South Pole. The Amundsen Scott South Pole Station only experienced minor damages, but its crew reported the emergence of an unknown rocky spire, 51 meters from the station. Foundation assets were scrambled to the area. Excavation of the rocky spire found that it extends for an approximate depth of 40 meters into the Antarctic plateau. However, fragments composed of its material extend for far deeper, with the lowest at a depth of 110 meters. It is considered likely that the fragments stretch to the Antarctic bedrock. The upper portion of the spire contains the remnants of a tube, similar to SCP-4431-B, though at a width at which a human individual could fit inside with moderate difficulty. Broken pieces of an ice axe blade surround the tube, and a bloodied coat is embedded into the spire nearby. A compacted soil-like substance, designated SCP-4431-D, comprises the spire. Materials such as ice and rock that come into contact with SCP-4431-D are gradually converted into further SCP-4431-D. The means by which this is achieved are unclear, but presumed to involve alterations to the subatomic structure of contacting materials. Visual details match those of the soil described in Bannard's journal. Trace amounts of human gene sequences have been found within the compounds. The excavation of past sites of SCP-4431-A seismic activity is considered a high priority. This concludes today's lecture. Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are, and you're all dismissed. Goodbye.
Yeah, that was a pretty long one. My bad. But yeah, creepy Halloweeny as fuck. Yeah, you got the goddamn Evil Dead coming at you. What the hell is this shit? I swallow your soul. No, I'm gonna swallow some food here in a minute. I will give you a fucking world-ending series of SCPs. It's not detailed. I mean, I don't know about spoilers and shit. If you want to go back and read the article or listen to what Volgan said about it. I mean, look, yeah, let me the Volgan. Oh wait, this is the other guy. This is the one that does like a lot of animations. The Volgan is one. I've already shut his window, so I'm sorry. But I posted the link to his videos in the YouTube chat once it gets all fucking situated and shit. But this is who made this. Oh shit. Fuck me. Okay. Fair enough. I can do that again. Yeah, those right there that I just posted, his link in the chat or their link, or they do good animations of the SCP Foundation files. I highly recommend the Red Sea Object. I really do. It's a good video. But okay, look, I was what the fuck was I gonna do? Okay. Oh, these are like universe ending SCPs. These will kill us all in like a millisecond. We won't even know what happened. But okay. Hang on, look, hang on. Here's the stage. Boom boom. Warning. The following files have been classified as top secret, above top secret, actually. Any non-authorized personnel accessing these files will be immediately terminated through redacted. Attempting to access or disseminate these files without proper and sufficient authorization will result in redacted, followed by death. You have been warned. Have we all been warned? We've been warned. Okay. Let us talk about the Thiaumel, or however the fuck you pronounce that, class SCPs, and you will be orientated. So here we go.
Item number SCP-179. Object class Thiaumel. Special containment procedures. SCP-179 remains beyond the reach of currently known groups of interest, including the Foundation. All containment efforts are to be focused towards a Grade 3 omission cover-up, coupled with the discouragement or sabotage of exploration and research missions that attempt to study cis-Mercurian space and orbits that go through it. Description: SCP-179 is a humanoid entity located at a constant distance of approximately 40,000 kilometers from the south polar region of the solar photosphere, locked to the rotation axis of Sol. However, it does not orbit it. The most recent recordings of SCP-179 indicate that it seems to maintain a continuous orbit around the center of the galaxy. Through the combined effort of 43 years of continuous surveying, the external appearance of SCP-179 has been defined as a human female of undetermined ethnic group of between 20 and 40 years of age. Its entire bodily surface is covered in or composed of a matte black material. Its hair appears to be composed of this material, measures over 34 kilometers long, and is constantly pushed away by solar wind. However, this part of SCP-179 seems to reflect variable amounts of sunlight, this reflection being the phenomenon that indicated its existence to Foundation astrophysicists during 1940. Several markings or tattoos are placed throughout its bodily midline. Judging from their brightness, these markings might be of metallic composition and of a golden hue. These tattoos include several symbols that have been identified as those typically representing the Sun and the 6 innermost planets of the solar system, according to medieval alchemy, including in this order: the symbol of gold on the subject's forehead, right underneath the hairline; the symbol of Mercury under the nose, circling both lips; the symbol of copper between the medial ends of its clavicles. Data expunged. These tattoos include several symbols that have been identified as those typically representing the Sun and the 6 innermost planets of the solar system, according to medieval alchemy, including in this order: the symbol of gold on the subject's forehead, right underneath the hairline; the symbol of Mercury under the nose, circling both lips. The symbol of copper between the medial ends of its clavicles. Data expunged. Autosensor level SC4. Non-trivial cognitohazard detected, with the anatomically correct shape of a human heart, placed over the location where a heart would be, in a female human of the same apparent age and bodily proportions. The symbol of iron in the upper abdominal region. The symbol of tin in the lower abdominal region. Part of a final symbol in the pelvic region. While the anatomy of this region makes its clear observation difficult, it has been hypothesized that the symbol of lead is also present and complete in the perineum region. SCP-179 keeps its ventral side oriented towards Earth most of the time, but it has been observed to look towards other areas on occasion. All further data redacted, as per Administrative Warning ES-026. Administrative Warning ES-026. As of SCP-179 has been reclassified Thaumiel. All involved personnel with a clearance level below 4/179 will be either promoted or reassigned to fit this new classification, depending on their relevance for the continued surveillance and cover-up operations as directed by the current head researcher for SCP-179. All reassigned personnel will be subject to Polymath 8 memory redaction therapy, or D-class amnestics, in a high-dosage grade, with a maximum retrograde effect of 10 years of experience, depending on the time spent working in SCP-179 prior to its reclassification. SCP-179's existence will be subject to an Orbital Misinformation Standardized Intelligence Obstruction and Neutralization Campaign. As per Omission Protocol 4, most documentation related to SCP-179 has been classified Level 4, Top Secret. Any further data related to SCP-179 has been classified Level 5, Thaumiel, and will be made available only to authorized 5/179 personnel. Be advised that unauthorized access to SCP-179 research materials will be considered a Type 3B offense. Unauthorized data management while lacking appropriate global clearance, punishable by compulsory memory redaction therapy with immediate reassignment and/or demotion. Warning: unauthorized personnel will be exposed to a memetic defense agent. SCP-179 is sensitive to all radiation in the electromagnetic spectrum, intelligent, and able to communicate through multiple anomalous means, including but not limited to radio and laser communications interference. Only one instance of SCP-179 communication with Foundation personnel has occurred thus far, where SCP-179 proved to be fluent in French. As this contact did not result in a clear statement of SCP-179's intentions towards the Foundation and its mission, all efforts must be made to prevent contact by any known groups of interest with SCP-179. Misinformation operations and other preemptive measures have been deployed. Most recorded movements performed by SCP-179 have been related to extraterrestrial threats, both anomalous or non-anomalous in nature, on a collision or orbital insertion course with the Earth. These threatening items have been identified as capable of causing CK-class reconfiguration events, of diverse impact on human societies and earthly life in general, if allowed to reach Earth. If impact with Earth or orbital insertion occurs without proper response and containment by Foundation operatives, these items of interest may be capable of causing XK-class end-of-the-world scenarios. SCP-179 will usually address an item or items of interest by pointing at them with an arm and, when more than one item of interest is present, will be able to generate additional limbs anatomically identical to its arms, as needed. Survey data indicates that SCP-179 performs other motions specific to each item of interest addressed, such as raising different fingers or moving its arms in an array of as-of-yet undecipherable patterns at fixed intervals. But whether these motions contain any information or not has not been determined to date. The limits of SCP-179's detection capacities have not been clearly ascertained. While SCP-179 has been able to detect potentially harmful objects beyond the trans-Neptunian region, those threats had been detected by other surveillance and exploration systems, usually under Foundation control, or, in at least 3 separate instances, were visible to the naked eye from Earth. However, they had not been immediately recognized as threats.
It has been hypothesized that SCP-179 may only detect and react to active threats that remain detectable to other observing parties, without the cis-Neptunian region, while being able to unerringly determine their harmful nature. All items of interest approaching Earth within cis-Neptunian space that had considerable destructive capacity have been detected by SCP-179 without failure, often when no observers known to the Foundation were aware of them. As such, SCP-179 and all personnel, orbital equipment, and facilities dedicated to its surveillance remain the most reliable early warning system the Foundation possesses to detect and, when possible, prevent potentially dangerous incursions within surveyed space. SCP-179 is able to determine which interplanetary objects pose a threat to Earth, humankind, or the earthly biosphere, which makes it a critical asset for the Composite Orbital Early Warning System, COEWS, project of the Foundation, which currently involves several undisclosed SCPs, Experimental Foundation Orbital Assets, Site-34, Site-103, Site-98, Area 8, several other undisclosed sites, and Command Site, as well as several personnel embedded within different space agencies and international consortia related to space exploration. All data of interest related to or obtained through SCP-179 will be marked COEWS-179, which will be considered high-priority information to all Foundation departments. Addendum SCP-179-1. Notable movements of SCP-179. 13/12/1940. First recorded movement of SCP-179. The entity, that had remained with both arms crossed, raised an arm towards a previously undetected interplanetary object on a collision course with Earth. After its impact, in an event that damaged the city of Data expunged extensively with large quantities of an anomalous mucus secretion and left more than 1,300 dead, which, combined with the anomalous phenomena related to redacted as per previous expungement. Remaining central item reclassified as SCP-179 returned to its original position. 2209-1942. Sixth recorded movement of SCP-179. The entity raises an arm towards on a collision course with Earth. Item of interest crashes nearby Auckland, New Zealand on 04/10/1942. Item separates upon impact into several devices of mechanical nature. Data expunged. Recently formed sub-entities with minimal civilian casualties. Once Foundation operatives contain the item proper, SCP-179 returns to its original position. Mobile task forces, all data on involved assets expunged from records, proceeds to track and destroy all remaining sub-entities. Date undisclosed. 18th recorded movement of SCP-179. The entity raises its right arm towards data expunged. Up to this date, the entity has kept one of its primary arms, shifting from one to the other as necessary, pointing in the same direction. 01/03/1949. 23rd recorded movement of SCP-179. The entity raises an arm towards an Amor-class asteroid that has adopted a collision course with Earth. The Foundation uses a combination of several SCP objects to launch a remote-controlled interplanetary vehicle that acts as a gravitationary tow line. This mission is announced a success on 03/05/1951. At this time, SCP-179 returns to its original position. Note: surveying elements observed that the entity performed a motion that could have been a nod. Reclassification request to Euclid status filed and denied. 13/12/1998. 403rd recorded movement of SCP-179. The entity stops watching the Earth for 2 days and 13 hours when it looks towards the Jovian system. Once this interval is over, SCP-179 looks at Earth again. 09/09/2002. 487th recorded movement of SCP-179. SCP-179 points at an armed Type 11 dimensional weapon launched from Area 8 to test SCP-179's detection capacities. Item remains in a primed configuration for several minutes, ready to be launched at a test location on Earth. It is not identified by SCP-179 until it is 3,670 kilometers above the Earth's surface, when SCP-179 reacts to it as a threat and points at it. Device subsequently reconfigured to a standby configuration and redirected towards its primary target. Data expunged. Still in transit from the Kuiper belt. SCP-179 returns to its previous position. 1610-2003. Contact with SCP-179 is achieved via the 2 probe. Subsequent movements registered in Addendum SCP-179-2. SCP-179 reclassified Thaumiel. Addendum SCP-179-2. Events of 1610-2003. SCP-179 was first approached by the 2 probe, a microsatellite equipped with multiple recording, analysis, and communication devices, incorporated into a second probe in a clandestine operation. The probe acted as a relay for the 2 probe and Foundation mission control. Contact and communication with the entity were not foreseen nor programmed. When visual contact with SCP-179 was established, obtaining an unprecedentedly clear, very high-resolution image of its surface, the entity begins to move its lips, forming the phonemes of a greeting in spoken French. What follows is a complete translation of the exchange. SCP-179. Hello. I'm the Lookout. My name is Sal Susor. Do you like my brother? I like him too. He is big, so big, and so very warm. If you want to talk to me, please use your satellite to weave talk to me. It'll be easier than coming here. Probably. Entity remains immobile for approximately 10 minutes. Researchers assigned to SCP-179 detect this movement. Level 3 researcher Thomas Graham, who is fluent in French, is selected by head researcher to conduct a possible exchange with SCP-179. The 2 probe is used as a radio relay from this point onward. SCP-179 is able to receive, understand, and transmit radio communications. SCP-179's transmissions read as a monotone, featureless human voice that speaks in French. The subsequent exchange occurs with a 16 minutes and 39.6 seconds delay between each message, corresponding to the distance between SCP-179 and Earth and return, that will be omitted in the rest of this document. Researcher Graham, who are you? SCP-179. My name is Sal Susor. I am the Lookout. I behold. I often see. I often warn. Almost always when I have to. That way, there is further life. Researcher Graham, what do you mean, the Lookout? SCP-179. It's me, Smiles. Researcher Graham, we have noticed the significance of your movements. Who do you report to? SCP-179. To those who know where to look. To you. To those who want to look. Not just you, but you too. Researcher Graham, when you say brother, are you referring to the sun? SCP-179. He is my brother, Sawel. He warms me up. He is carrying fire and loving light. He caresses me with his arcs and his voice and renews me. He is the source of all true light. He is your source. Researcher Graham, where do you come from? SCP-179. I was born a child. The entity nods towards Earth. Researcher Graham, for how long have you been in your current location? SCP-179. I do not want to tell you. Smiles. SCP-179 adopts a fetal position, remains looking towards the Earth, and pointing at the face of the entity remains visible from the 2 probe. Researcher Graham, how did you reach your current position? How did you acquire the properties you currently possess? SCP-179. I was grown into a woman. This is how I live now. Researcher Graham, could you give us further details, please? SCP-179. No. Researcher Graham, we would like to know more about you. Why not tell us? SCP-179. I am sorry. I won't be yours. I can't belong to any one person. Researcher Graham, the Foundation's work protects all of humanity, all life on Earth. Don't you find this work of the greatest importance? SCP-179. Yes, I am doing it. Look upon me and know. Researcher Graham, if we have understood your capacities correctly, we believe you could do far more than that. Sharing all the information you have, not just about the dangerous threats against humankind and Earth, could be of great benefit to all parts involved. SCP-179. I am too big, and you are too small. There is a sea of nothing, and islands of light. I am their shore. To you come the monsters, the pounding fists of void, the longing gods beyond our knowledge. I am the lookout. I see the ripples in their wake. You want me to pledge my sight node to you, only to you, so you, only you, can be greater. Even if you find, restrain, defend. You want me to be yours. That is not why I am here. There are others. Others I assist. Others I warn. Others beyond your thin walls of gray, dry paste rock. Others beyond the reach of your weary satellites. Others beyond the home, our home. Others I know. Others I love. Others you won't care for. Others that came before. And, overall, others beyond the little walls of rules and bone and laws and flesh and memories and oaths you built around yourselves, until you don't even remember them. Others I love, dearly. And yet, only my brother is an equal to me. Researcher Graham, excuse me, I don't understand what you mean by others. Could you please explain yourself with other words? SCP-179 smiles, but I have no words left. Closing. Despite several communication attempts, SCP-179 did not perform any other movements, nor transmit other messages. Up to this date, SCP-179 has not responded to any message coming from any Foundation contact team, or any other efforts from known groups of interest. Item number.
Oh no. Oh no. We've got to stop there because, yeah, I got a big buzz on. It's Friday. And, that was a pretty goddamn long one. I'm sorry for that. But, yeah, it's the shadow lady under the sun that is beyond us. We can't understand. But anyway, I'm going to end this. I thank everybody who stopped by. I thank everybody who showed up. I'm going to have a bong and have a fucking sandwich. And yeah, I'll catch up. I'll catch up with y'all later. Take care, everybody.